Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another album battle. Picked a little off the wall one this time. I'm going with Saigon Kick, their first album, self-titled, and Water. I chose those two basically because out of the whole group of albums they made, which wasn't really that many, 5 I believe, the first one and Water are the two that really had an influence on my musical taste and writing and songwriting and inspiration, so that's the reason I chose those two. I remember hearing Saigon Kick for the first time. I believe it was on MTV's Headbangers Ball. And they were doing, I forget which song it was. I just remember seeing it and thinking, wow, that's a pretty cool band. I'm gonna have to check that album out. So I went and I bought a cassette tape of that one, which I still have to this day. I listened to this one countless times. I can't even begin to imagine how many times I listened to that one. So yeah, let's just get into it. I think the one thing about this initial album, it was the 4-piece band. They had a different bass player, and they had Matt Kramer on vocals on that one. Water's where Jason took over. Jason Bieler, that is, although it's only Jason on Water. But anyway, yeah, the first self-titled one, let's just get right into it, I guess. Let's start with the first song on that one, New World. This is one of those ones where I never heard anything quite like it, or it's an extremely heavy riff, kind of really repetitive, nothing too fancy about it, but it's a really strong riff with the vocals were almost like a chant, I guess, but not exactly a chant, but just kind of like, it wasn't words, it was just ho type stuff over the top of, a really heavy riff, which I thought was really interesting. And then it would go into a really catchy chorus, with big vocals in the chorus, a lot of harmonies in Saigon Kick songs, which I think was a great introduction. What You Say would be song number 2 on that one. Kind of an odd song as well. I don't think there's a bad song on this album, so I'm probably going to say I like them all, but I remember that one being pretty interesting, saying along the same lines. What Do You Do? It was one of these, song number 3 had almost like a shouty type vocal to it. I wouldn't say gang vocals at all, but it had more of not a actual singing style. It was almost like a yelling, but it was still in key, if that makes any sense, at least for the chorus part. Susie, and also another, all these songs are so unique, so different from each other. Yeah, you can all tell it's the same band. That was another cool thing about this band. Colors, they get a little bit more on the mellow side on Colors. Good catchy chorus on that one. Actually really good lyrics as well in all these songs. Almost made you think it might have been a Christian band, but you never really were quite sure, because they talked a lot about faith and healing and God and spirituality and stuff in a lot of their songs. That was just a really good one. Coming Home, another great song. Just another big, full sounding guitars. I mean, Jason Bieler is just a monster on guitars. Just had his own unique style, and it really shows on that song as well. Love of God being the last song on side 1 of my cassette. Another great song. There's actually a lot of songs, and I didn't realize there was that many songs. Looking back, it's like, wow, there's a lot of songs on this album. Side 2 starts with Down by the Ocean, which is actually a really kind of a quirky song. Also another one with really weird lyrics and kind of a weird harmony to it, but still a great song. Acid Rain, song 2 on side 2. Another one that's along that same style, heavy with the weird lyrics. Obviously addressing what was going on in the situation. I think they were an LA band, but I might be wrong on that one. Might want to double check my facts on that one. Next one, My Life. Actually, I think how that one goes. I'm kind of winging it on these sometimes, so I'm going back just on memory alone, because it's been a while since I've listened to these albums. But oh yeah, My Life, yeah, another one with the heavy riffage going on, and same deal there. Month of Sundays, that one's a great song. I remember listening to that one a lot. That was one that really caught my ear a lot. I I won't say repeat it as far as, CD, because I had it on cassette, but I would definitely take the time to maybe rewind and go back and listen to that one. And that one goes right into Ugly, which is a great song, good heavy song. Another one with really great lyrical content, which was strange because it goes right into Come Take Me Now, which is probably the mellowest song. I don't know, maybe next to, it was definitely more mellow than Colors. So Come Take Me Now, great song. It's got that really cool acoustic guitar in the verses, and that kicks into a really big, full chorus, big harmonies, everything going on there. And that album ends with I See You. Not quite as heavy as the rest of the album, but still got no heavy guitar part, but the melody on this one was, I guess, more mainstream, normal, but a good song on its own, catchy, good way to end the album, I guess. And then I guess we'll just switch right over to Water. Now, they were in the process of recording with Matt on this album, and this one also has a different bass player on it. This one is where the Chris McCornan is on it. The Tom DeFile, it was the bass player on the first album. I think they're actually, I don't know, they've gotten back together over the past few years, and they've changed the lineup a little bit. I think it's still Tom on the bass. I may be wrong. I know they switched a drummer a couple times since their reunion too, and I think they actually got Jonathan Mover, that was on drums last I knew. Another guy who's played with, a million different people. But anyway, this is when Jason decided he was gonna, do the Phil Collins trick and, move over to lead vocals when their lead singer decided to quit. I personally think it's a great album. I really like it. I didn't know what to expect with him. Vocal tonality is a little different, and his delivery is obviously a little different than Matt's, but I think it fit the songs really well. I mean, considering that Jason writes most of the material, I guess that makes sense. But also, this is one that starts with One Step Closer. It's one of those songs with a heavy riff. It's got that same unique melody, not really a lyric, but just kind of a cool melody, and then some heavy, riffage going on with a nice, cool, heavy vocal at the top into a very big chorus. It's just a great way to kick off the album. This one they actually have a cover song on it, Space Oddity, the David Bowie song. The one of David Bowie's, I think it was his first single, probably his most famous song that most people know. Jason does a great job with it. They don't change it up really that much from the original, but they definitely do a good job on it. Personally, I prefer their own songs, but they did a good job with this one, so I can't complain. This one goes into Water, track number 3. This is where they start getting a little bit more experimental, which is what I really liked about this album. Water has got a different drum to it. Could actually have been a drum machine for all I know. It sounds kind of like fake drums, like maybe even the Simmons drums, whatever they're using back in that point in time. This would have been early 90s, 93 this album came out, so that may be what they're using, but it also had a really cool guitar melody over the top of the whole song, which really kind of brought the whole song together. I really like that one. And then it goes into Torture, which is another one of those heavier songs. It's a good song, not one that really stuck out a lot to me, but definitely liked it. And into Fields of Rape, which was another big song. They still had a little bit of an experimental thing going on to it. Wasn't quite as didn't quite grab me as much as maybe like Water first did when I heard it, or some of the songs on the first album, but still a good song. The odd track, the next one, I Love You, which I know they did as a single and a video, because I remember seeing that one. Not a whole lot of guitar in it, but it had, what I really liked about it is had this it had a guitar going through the whole song. It was like one straight guitar part played beginning to end in the background, and it just like anchored the whole song with this cool keyboard thing, and then the catchy chorus, even though it was the ballad, I guess, of the disc. I really like that about it, and I've actually learned how to do that with some of my own songs, kind of anchor a song, and this is like where I learned that from, was this particular song. I really have to give credit to Jason for that one. If it was a small thing, I really, as a young musician at that time, I really learned a lot from that. And that goes into Sergeant Steve, which is another kind of a quirky song. I actually did probably tend to find myself skipping over that one a little bit. Into My Heart, another good song, solid song. Into On and On, which actually that was a really good song. I think Jason Bieler's going out doing a lot of solo acoustic gig nowadays. I actually saw a video of him doing this one acoustically, and I think it sounded better doing acoustically. It would have been interesting to hear what that would have sounded like on the disc here. Next track, we're into The Way. Yeah, it's a decent song. It's also, more of like the main, what you would expect from a Saigon Kick. Into Sentimental Girl, that one was a little bit one of their more odd ones. Actually, the remainder of this album was kind of like odd stuff. Sentimental Girl was kind of an odd song. Close to You was okay, but that was that little weird, odd thing going on. A lot of good bass playing on these songs, though, too. And When You Were Mine, I actually think When You Were Mine is probably the weakest song on the whole album. I like the experimental stuff. This album, that ends with Reprise, which was, just a little outro, I guess you would call that. It's kind of hard to decide which one I'd want to grab on these. They were both very influential to me for different reasons, and they're quite different sounding albums, although even with Jason on vocals, it's still Saigon Kick. The album they made after this one, Devil in the Details, was a lot more heavy. They still had a little bit more of the experimentation, but not as much as Water did. That was more like a Saigon Kick, but this one had a lot of stuff on it that, even though it wasn't like on every song, it probably influenced me the most. But I think the first one is more solid of an album. Man, that's tough to choose what I would have to do. If I had to actually pick one as my favorite, too bad I can't just like mix mash songs from it. I would probably have to say Saigon Kick, the self-titled Saigon Kick, is the better album, but I've listened to Water more. So for the reason of Water being more influential to me and I've listened to it more, I'm going to have to pick that one if I actually had to choose one. And like I said, they've gotten back together, still out doing tours and all, not tours, I guess, doing shows, sporadically. That's more of a hobby to him nowadays, I think. Jason's actually out there on his own, got his own Bandcamp site. He's like releasing music like consistently. He's got EPs coming out every few months. Some of the stuff that he was releasing on his own is some of my favorite stuff he's done. You guys should check out that, Jason Bieler at Bandcamp. And he's got Facebook, all that stuff, and plugging this guy, I don't even know him. But yeah, Owl Stretching is the name of one of his other projects out there. It's all on the same Bandcamp site, though. That's where I've kind of kept following him anyway. So if anybody's interested in that, check him out. Anybody's interested in hearing what the influences these guys had on me, feel free to check out. I've also got my Bandcamp set up. I've got YouTube, if you guys are interested in that, my own channel over there. And I just got all my stuff out on iTunes and Spotify and Deezer and whatever else is out there. I'm trying to do the same thing. I actually really use Jason as inspiration to go out there and do this stuff on my own, which, I've been in bands my whole life, and this has been, a big step for me getting out on my own and doing stuff. So, just personally, even after the Saigon Kick, this guy's still influencing me, so that's why I chose Saigon Kick, even though it may sound like an odd choice. Huge influence on me. So anyway, check him out. Like I said, there's no real winner in this album thing. It's all about keeping this music alive, talking about it, and just kept keeping the discussion going. And having maybe younger people who haven't heard these bands, go check them out. Some great music out there, even though it's not a huge, stadium selling band, they're still a great band. Check it out. All right, till next time. Don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm just kind of winging all this stuff, so just want to keep talking about music because it's so much fun. So until then, talk to you later. Thanks.